How you doing? Tobin, back in the Shaved In, episode 3 in my blade battle series, Kai versus Feather. Arguably two of the sharpest blades in all of wet shaving. Is Feather really as sharp as people say it is? But by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on that. If you're familiar with my content, you've seen me use both of them, and I probably use Kai a little more often. That doesn't necessarily mean Kai is sharper, but Kai is different. Following the same format that I laid out in episode 2, we're going to start off first with the coating on each blade. So in the blue corner, we have Kai. Now Kai has what they call a proprietary blend. It's not overtly advertised what they use, but if we look at a few different places on the internet and even on Kai's website, we'll find that they use what they call fluorine resin. Right there is where they have that on their own website. Fluorine resin is PTFE, Teflon. Two other things that I believe they're using is chrome. For certain, I believe they're using chrome. And then they might be using plasma or titanium, and I found those from their website. There's mentions on their website about chrome, but then also looking at a couple of other places, plasma and titanium. But I am certain that they're at least using Teflon, PTFE, fluorine resin, according to them, that's what they've called it, and then chrome. So I'm going with chrome and PTFE. Feather, on the other hand, you look at their blade package and it says high stainless platinum. So it's a platinum coating, and then what the high stainless means is they're declaring that they're using a premium alloy, the very best surgical grade stainless steel possible. Both of these companies, so in episode 2, we did Procter & Gamble's two heavyweights, Gillette Silver Blue and Gillette Platinum. Procter & Gamble does a lot of things that's not wet shaving. Feather and Kai, they mostly do, their whole thing is all about knives and scalpels. So Kai, they own Kershaw, a blade manufacturer here in Oregon. They also make some of the best cutlery, kitchen knives, stuff like that. And then they're all about the medical equipment. And then same with Feather. They're big time into medical equipment. So these two companies, their whole focus is making blades, as to where some of these other companies that we'll be looking at during the series, blades really isn't their thing. But with Kai and Feather, their game is stainless steel, and they use it in a whole lot of different cutting tools. I love Kershaw. I own a lot of Kershaw knives. This right here has been my daily carry for the last 6 months or so. And I love Kai. I also like Feather, but Kai's probably my favorite. So anywho, now you know chrome, Teflon on the Kai proprietary blend, and then the platinum high stainless from Feather. Neither one of them outwardly disclose exactly what they're using. Right there on the screen, you can see what I think they might be using from the research I've done over this last year preparing for this blade battle series. And then next, thickness. But also with this one, we're going to look at width. So let's talk about Feather first, because what Feather has in terms of thickness and width is the industry standard today. It is the average of what you will find. So in terms of the thickness of the blade, the Feather is the same as the Gillette Silver Blue and the Platinum that we've already done, and that is 0.10 millimeters thick. And the width, how wide the blade is on the Feather, is also the industry standard at 21.95 millimeters. So 21.95 millimeters is the average width of a double-edged razor blade in wet shaving today. Kai breaks the mold on both of these. The Kai blade is a little thicker at 0.12 millimeters thick, and that gives the blade a more rigid feel to it. It's still flexible, but it is not as flexible. And then the width on it, it's slightly wider at 22.10 millimeters. Now you would think, right, just like in practical terms, that 0.15 millimeters isn't going to make a whole lot of difference. But when it comes to wet shaving, this is not a game of inches. This is a game of millimeters. It's not football. We're not playing American football. We're not playing, by the yardage. We're playing by millimeters, and 0.15 millimeters can make a world of difference. With my wife's help, I tried to get the best picture I could to show you how the Kai has just a slight overhang from the feather if you lay them on top of each other. But what it does, though, is it gives you a little bit more blade feel. So if you put like the Kai in a Henson, the mild Henson, or any mild razor, you're going to be able to bump up that blade feel if you're looking for more blade feel. So just know that you're getting more blade feel from the Kai because it is a slightly wider blade and it's more rigid than the feather. Two important things to know when selecting a blade and for which razor, which we'll talk about more as we go along, because I really think that some of these razors do well in vintage razors as to where others do better in modern. And I think a modern razor needs a thin blade and a vintage razor does better with a thicker blade. Anywho, moving along. So that you know how I'm measuring my value. My value, again, is based off of Amazon. Currently, the Kai blade is $36.99 for 100 blades. That's 37 cents per blade. The target with all of these is 5 shaves. If you get 5 shaves at 37 cents a piece, that's 7.4 cents per blade. The feather is cheaper at $31.50 per 100 on Amazon. That's 31.5 cents per blade. At 5 shaves, that puts you at 6.3 cents per shave. Real quick, so blade box, and this also kind of factors into value and some things that people might not be aware of. I know a lot of wet shavers are aware of that the black package and yellow package of feather are exactly the same blade. The blade is 100% the same. Black is a 5-pack, yellow is a 10-pack. One thing I don't like about Kai is that their blades have never been branded. There's no writing on the blade at all, which just makes it easier to escaping me. The word is decoys, not decoys. What's the word? It'll come to me. Oh crud! Old man time here. So anyways, you know the word. It's right there. Tell me. Yeah, thank you. So, Chisel Pete. The feather does have that. And one thing, I do like how Kai has this nice sturdy box that the blade comes in. But one thing that's super cool with feather, and it eliminates, if you only use blades like feather that come in these plastic cases, they come with the little blade disposal at the bottom. So you take your new blade out of the top, and then when you're done using the blade, you put it right into the bottom, and it's stored, and you don't have to worry about buying anything extra or doing the extra stuff like so many of us, myself included. I use Tic Tac containers for mine. The waxes. So real quick, I want to make sure everyone understands what the wax is for. People complain about feather having a lot of wax on it. And it does. It's a paraffin wax. Some companies are using a synthetic adhesive. The wax, I never worry about it. But if you want to remove the wax, just some warm water and a Q-tip. I don't worry about it. I just put it on. And then when I'm cleaning my razor, I always use warm water to rinse. And then I always dry with the Q-tip. And so the wax that gets on the razor head or the base plate, it comes right off with warm water and a Q-tip. So for me, it's something that is kind of a pain when I'm opening the blade, but once I get it out of the wrapper, it's no biggie for me because it's either paraffin wax or synthetic adhesive, and they both come off easily with warm water. And you can see there the benefits of the wax. All right, so let's get back into this. That's the notes that I had on the packaging, because I think those are two things that need to be pointed out, because those do affect value. And for me, value is the amount of happiness, the amount of enjoyment I get for $1 spent. Notes, going back to notes. So as I'm doing my whole test of these, I was writing down notes on a notebook. I got that below you on the tripod. With Kai, I was writing down, tends to be a little smoother. Feather, I was constantly being reminded of just how sharp they are. They are legendary for their surgical sharpness. And my opinion, the reason why they gave it the name of Feather to begin with is because that's all that is required is a feather touch. I do not recommend either one of these blades for a new wet shaver. I would recommend that you try a handful of other blades before you try these two. Both of these blades are for the wet shaver who has gotten their technique down to a science. Do not use either one of these blades until you're comfortable with wet shaving. That would be my advice. The thickness, another note I had written down, it does feel like it gives it a touch more rigidity and more blade exposure. I got 8 different razors that I have duplicates of. I'll show you more of those in the future video as well. But when I sit there and I look at it and I feel them, like Merkur 34C, you might be familiar with those. I have 2 of them. And so when I shave with it, I do notice that the Kai offers up a little bit more blade feel. So if you like blade feel, that's a bonus. And I feel like at the same time in most razors, not all, that it can enhance the smoothness and even the control, especially in mild razors like the Henson, a Gillette Tech. It really does seem to improve that. I think there are some advantages to that extra width and thickness with the Kai. But if you don't like a rigid blade, or if you're using like one of these modern razors, like you name it, it may not be the blade that you want to use, because those blades are all being made for the 0.10 and then, what was it, the 2195. Okay, but you might, right? And then I got the reminding to talk about Kershaw and surgical instruments. All right, so now in the blue corner, pick this back up. This is where I got my scores on this other notebook. I got notebooks everywhere. Bless my wife. My wife loves me. Sharpness is what we're looking at first. So in the blue corner, Kai, we have a sharpness of 9, with 10 being the sharpest thing ever. Kai is very close to being feather sharp, but not quite as close. I'm going to give Kai a 9 and the feather a 10. Round 1 goes to feather. Smoothness. This one was really hard to do. Kai, after the first shave, it feels like, and with each of the next 4 shaves, it does seem to dip down a little bit with each shave, to where the first shave, it's one way, and then the second shave, it seems to be a little less sharp, a little less smooth. The feather, on the other hand, after the first shave, there's a noticeable difference, a slightly noticeable difference with the feather. But then after that, the second, the third, and the fourth, and the fifth shave are identical to the second. The feather, it maintains it. So with that being said, I'm still going to give the smoothness to the Kai, because I feel like the Kai really starts out ultra smooth in comparison. Kai, I'm giving it an 8. And the feather, I'm giving it a 7 for smoothness. Now, durability. This plays right back into what I was talking about a second ago. Put my definition of durability up there. In the blue corner, Kai, giving it a 9. Durability for the feather, a 10. Like I said, it has that slight dip after that first shave. But after that first shave, it holds its edge for the next 4 shaves. The feather is a remarkable blade if you like a sharp blade. And going back to what I said in the first video, I can't emphasize it enough. If all you get is 1 shave, great. If you get 10 shaves, great. I'm just going with 5 in this because I don't feel like going much beyond 5 with most blades is necessary, given the account that I'm only spending 7.4 cents per blade, and I've got enough blades to last me forever. For new wet shavers, when the blade starts to tug, stop using it. When it starts to become uncomfortable, stop using it. It doesn't matter what I say or what anyone else says. Listen to your face. Your face isn't going to lie to you. So durability goes to the feather. Last and final round, value. Everything we talked up above, the amount of enjoyment, the amount of happiness that I get per dollar spent. Value, 7 for the Kai, and for the Feather, I'm going to give it a value of 8. Both of these razors are on the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to cost, but I do feel like they deliver in terms of performance because of how sharp they are, and not just because how sharp they are, but how remarkably smooth they are in direct contrast to their sharpness. All right, so final score, Kai, 33, Feather, 35. Out of Japan, we have a winner, and it's Kai by 2 points. It's a little big thanks, my friends, for me with this. It's kind of value, but overall, it's just a matter of trying to find a blade that I really enjoy, and then trying to convey that joyness to you guys in a fun way. Which do you prefer? Do you like the Kai? Do you like the Feather? I'm always torn between the two. I really like Kai. Maybe it's because of Kershaw. I don't know. No, I thought that before Kershaw. I just like the Kai, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because the Feather's just a little too sharp and I'm too gingery. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for sticking around.